So here's a somewhat interesting question. Do you need to be high rated in League of Legends to give accurate and informed analysis on the game? If this video is coming out when I plan for it to, this video should be coming out right as I release my Fizz video that sort of analyzes how Fizz has gotten into a ridiculous state once again, where he has become this terrifying monster of OP ridiculousness in solo queue to a point where he has he's the most banned champion top lane, and he's the second most banned champion of every champion in League of Legends. This isn't the first time that we have seen this happen with Fizz, and so I sort of try and go into analysis talking about how he has become ridiculous again, how his damage stacks up against other champions top lane, and how his abilities in particular are so ridiculously strong that if you give him similar damage and similar tank stats to other champions, then he will become ridiculously overpowered to a point where he's always banned. Now, this is an analysis video that's coming from someone who currently, I'm in Diamond 4. We drop back down to Diamond 4 again because I've started to refuse to play Aurelia to learn other champions. And that might be a problem for a lot of people. I get all the time, one of the things that people criticize me for is that I'm not high enough rated to give accurate analysis on League of Legends. This is one of the reasons why I am so excited / determined to try and climb to Master Tier in particular. In my view, around Diamond 2, Diamond 1, that's when you become a real person, as I say. That's when you start getting to a point where you can't really be called bad or say that, your analysis or your opinions aren't valid in League of Legends, because at that point you're playing with the best people in the world. At that point you're playing with pro players, you're playing with Challenger Tier players, I'd assume. I mean, I already occasionally get Master Tier and Challenger Tier players in my game, in middle and low diamond. I can imagine high diamond, that's when you're really starting to play with the best of the best, and there aren't too many players out there that you haven't played with yet. Whereas in low diamond, in platinum, you might be the top 0.5% of players on your server, but there's still an entire tier or two of players that you've never had to play against yourself, so naturally, you're not good enough to give the best quality analysis available. However, I would say that you don't need to be a top tier player to give good analysis, and I would actually say that there isn't too much overlap in knowledge in climbing solo queue and performing well at the game, and knowledge that comes to analyzing, casting, and strategizing. Theory crafting is what people often call it with League of Legends. So, for instance, I think the perfect example of this would be just take a look at casters in League of Legends. Look at all the casters that Riot hires. Generally speaking, if they aren't former pro players, if they aren't someone like Krepo or Jat, or Krepo, Jat, or like Kobe is a pretty old player. I'm not too sure what rating he is at. He might be in platinum or low diamond, but there are some pro players that play at a challenger level or master tier high diamond level, but a lot of the people that Riot hires to cast games that aren't the former pro players, people like Quickshot or Rivington, they are in much lower ratings. I don't know what rating they're currently at, but last I checked, those guys were like gold or silver rated. I'm pretty sure that Monty and Thorin were in silver or gold. So a lot of people that have some of the best analysis that there is in League of Legends cannot perform and play at a challenger tier level. Why is that? Well, the reason is because, as I said, analysis in League of Legends, what makes a good analyzer, what makes a good person to analyze the game? Okay, I don't know what I'm thinking, the word I'm trying to come up with, but what makes a good analysis person doesn't always make a good player. When you're getting good at League of Legends, there's generally speaking, in my experience, there's three things that define how good you are as a player when it comes to performing in League of Legends, and those three things are as follows. Firstly, your mechanics, how fast you can click a mouse, how good your reaction times are, how well you can last hit. One of the funniest things that I think there is about lower rated players when they're saying that they do everything that high rated players do, they just get bad teammates. If you watch those players play games and you compare their gameplay to higher rated players, the lower rated players almost always just click less. I mean, that's the advice I've started giving out to people who say, like, how do I get out of bronze? Just try clicking more and see what happens. I don't know if that's actually going to help you much, but that's one difference between higher rated players and lower rated players, but that falls into the umbrella of mechanics, right? Another thing that, or the second thing, I guess, would, the second thing that defines a player in League of Legends and how good they are and how far they can climb would be knowledge, and this is a very important, maybe the most important one of all. There are some players that I know of, I know of a Master Tier player in particular, who's a jungler. I think he mains Udyr on jungle. And he says that he has the worst mechanics ever. Like, there are platinum players that have better mechanics than him. Every diamond player has better mechanics than him. But his knowledge is so strong that playing jungle, where he doesn't really have to worry about mechanics in a laning phase or anything, he can just control the map, he can always take dragons, he can always take objectives, he can always gank proper lanes, he can always do all these things that he's able to climb himself up to master tier even though he has the mechanics of a platinum 1 player. He says that his mechanics are holding him back from getting challenger, but like that's an example of how one of these things can really carry you far. And knowledge in particular is a very important one. That's something that's very specific to the role that you play, and that's one of the reasons why someone who's a diamond top laner might not be, they're going to be a gold AD carry, because in top lane, I'll use myself as an example. One of the things that I know, personally, in top lane is the Irelia versus Renekton matchup. Renekton got buffed a little bit recently on the most recent patch, so I'm not entirely sure if this still holds true, but for the past 6 seasons of League of Legends, for the Irelia versus Renekton matchup, it goes as follows. Levels 1 through 4, 1 through 5, Renekton beats Irelia very hard, and as an Irelia player, you just want to not die. If you're playing Renekton in that matchup, you want to go as ham as possible to try and get a kill. Levels 5, level 6, level 7, Irelia starts to be able to outplay the Renekton. If she can see the Renekton has a cooldown down, she can, generally speaking, as long as she's built right and doesn't mess up an engage, she can look for an engage and quite often get kills. And then from level 9, level 10, level 11, and onwards, Irelia just outscales Renekton, where if that Renekton player has not gotten some sort of substantial lead in the lane, then he will lose the laning phase, he will lose the 1 versus 1 and get outscaled by Irelia. That's how that matchup goes, and I know that to a T. So I know when I pick Irelia against Renekton, okay, give up all the CS I possibly can, levels 1 through 4, 1 through 5. I just don't want to die. Level 6, that's when I can start going aggressive, progressively get more aggressive as the game goes on and as I start outscaling him. That's a very important thing to know as a top laner if you play either Irelia or Renekton. And knowing those sort of matchups, having a game plan where you can know every champion's strengths and weaknesses at certain levels and in certain matchups, that's a very important thing for you to know if you're going to be climbing in League of Legends yourself, because winning lane is one of the most important things that you should be doing. However, that is something that has zero relevance to casting. I guess we can get to that in a little bit. We'll go ahead and finish off this little list of 3 things. I almost forgot the last one. Decision making. That's the one that I suck at quite a lot, if you couldn't tell. I forget about it on my lists. Decision-making, I would say, is the third thing that makes a League of Legends player when it comes to climbing in solo queue. Decision-making for TP ganks, when to engage. I mean, seeing a good example would be like if you're some sort of engaging champion like Malphite, right? Where if you see an AD carry walk forward and you can ult them because they've mispositioned, but you can only ult that AD carry. In this situation, if you ult and engage, will your team win that team fight right now? Are you far enough ahead that just getting one ult on that AD carry is going to be enough to win the team fight? Or does the enemy team have enough carries that you need to make sure you get more than one person in your ultimate? Maybe your team's super far behind and just catching out that AD carry isn't going to be good enough. That sort of decision making is something that's really important in League of Legends, and I would say that's something that's different from just general knowledge. Being able to look in a situation and assess what you should do, what decision you should make to TP gank, not to TP gank, to split push, not to split push, to go forward, back off. I mean, that's something that's a little different from general knowledge of matchups and things like that. So I would say those are the 3 big things of League of Legends and how a player is sort of judged by solo queue in how good they are. However, I would also say that these are things that are very, very irrelevant to casting and analyzing the game. Firstly, mechanics, obviously. You can have terrible mechanics but still be a great theory crafter. You can know the game incredibly well and just have god-awful mechanics and there you go. I mean, mechanics have no bearing on how good you are at analyzing the game. Decision-making is also true. A lot of the time when you watch a caster, you don't see a caster, if we're going back to this caster comparison, when you watch a caster or an analysis person, you don't see them saying, oh, this is going to be a good play. You don't see them saying, oh, look at this TP gank, this is going to work out really well for them, because that's something that the player is deciding. All the caster or analysis person has to do is say, oh, that didn't work, or that did work. They have hindsight in that situation, and then they can sort of say, okay, that worked because they hit all their abilities, and they recognize that that was a good opportunity to TP, whereas if they were a player, they would actually have to make that judgment themselves and not just look back on it with hindsight. So those are examples of how the mechanics and the decision making aren't quite as relevant when it comes to casting and analyzing the game. But the knowledge thing is something that could be kind of relevant, right? Knowledge of League of Legends, that's a pretty important thing when it comes to analyzing the game, right? That's all it is you better have knowledge so you have things to talk about and be able to understand the game, how things happen and why they do happen. However, the knowledge that you need to possess when playing League of Legends is a lot different from that knowledge that you need to be using to assess. And that's what I was about to talk about, is that Aurelia versus Renekton example. If you know that matchup, and you know that matchup back and forth, you know, like the back of your hand or whatever, that's something that's incredibly important, and it will take you very far if you are a solo queue player. If you know that matchup, you can win a game, right? When you go into a game, that you can choose whether you're minus 20 LP or plus 20 LP at the end of it. Knowing that matchup can decide that for you. However, being a caster, it's kind of helpful to know that, but you can get away with not knowing that, and even if you do want to comment on that in some sort of cast, then you know what you're going to say? You're going to say, oh, Aurelia, she's going to lose this early. Renekton's going to have to go for aggressive early if he wants to win the lane. Otherwise, he's going to lose it. That's it. That's like 2 sentences in the novel of speech that you are giving in an analysis of a League of Legends game, commentating over it. Now, things are a little bit different if you are some sort of like analyst. That's the word I was looking for. Things are different if you're an analyst for a team, and a team is like paying you to talk about things and to coach your players on what they did right, what they did wrong, knowing certain things about like what your players should be doing and what your players shouldn't be doing. That is something that's it's pretty important, and it's something that you should probably pay attention to, right? But at the same time, it sort of works the same way, where you can look at something in hindsight, and I think that's a really important thing. Being able to just assess League of Legends and understand why certain things happen is a lot different than just being able to predict things and knowing what sort of decision you should make based off of that sort of prediction of your knowledge of the game. And I think that's why, in my opinion, analysis can come from anyone. Good analysis can come from anyone. A pro player, or like a pro team, should definitely look to like challenger players if they're looking for an analyst, right? Or at least diamond and above. I think a lot of the analysis people a lot of the analysts for teams are in low diamond. I don't want to call anyone out, but I'm pretty sure of the analysts I know that work for pro teams, a lot of them are in low diamond or mid diamond, so you can get away with like, okay, you know, maybe just scraping the bottom of the barrel of diamond, but you can obviously just choose not to hire a gold player to be some sort of analyst for your League of Legends team. But when it comes to something like my video, and when it comes to something like anyone's video, this isn't just me defending my own work, but when it comes to anyone's analysis, an article that someone writes describing a champion or matchup, or a video that someone makes, or some sort of Reddit post or something, those are things that, when it comes down to it, you shouldn't be judgmental based off of the person's rank. You should be judgmental based off of what they say and their analysis. At the end of the day, they can still be wrong, right? I'm not saying that everybody's right all the time. Feel free to tell me how wrong I am about my Fizz video in the comments of that. But you judge them based off of their analysis. Don't use their rating as something to judge them based off of in both ways. You know, don't insult someone for being low rated and say their analysis has no value. And also, don't stop criticizing someone or thinking about it yourself if they're high rated and you think there might be something wrong about it. At the end of the day, I think that's a much healthier way to look at League of Legends and look at a lot of the commentary and analysis that's done in League of Legends, and that's one of the reasons why I'm going to continue making analysis videos, even though I am a Diamond 4 idiot that can't... I can't believe I fell back down to Diamond 4. Of course I'm going to if I'm going to stop playing Aurelia, I guess, but... Anyway, those are just some thoughts. I need to upload more to this second channel. I'll probably be uploading more in the near future, but until then, thank you very much for watching. Good luck in solo queue. Have a wonderful day.